Welcome back to the Dinar Chronicle, your trusted destination for the latest updates, deep dives, and real-time insights into the dynamic world of global currency revaluations. If you're passionate about tracking the movement of the Iraqi Dinar, the Vietnamese Dong, and other currencies speculated to undergo significant revaluation, you're in the right place. Today we bring to you one of the most riveting developments in the currency revaluation world, a statement so bold and so powerful that it's creating waves across online financial communities and dinar forums alike. Frank 26, a well-known voice, an analyst in the IQD and Dong community, has just made a shocking claim: the Vietnamese Dong RV is live now. Not only that, but he also connected this monumental announcement with the closely watched status of the Iraqi Dinar. So buckle in, because what you're about to hear could very well be a historic shift in the journey we've all been following for years. For those of you who are new to the channel, let me first give you a brief context. Frank 26 is not a stranger to the Dinar and Dong community, with decades of experience studying global monetary policy, Middle Eastern geopolitical shifts, and the silent movements of international financial systems. Frank has often predicted patterns that have eventually unfolded. While his claims have sometimes sparked debate, his loyal followers credit him with being one of the first to truly analyze the RV theory in detail. Now, with his latest statement proclaiming that the Vietnamese Dong revaluation is already live, there's renewed excitement and also a fair share of skepticism that we must evaluate carefully. According to Frank 26, sources very close to the Central Bank of Vietnam and tied into international banking networks have confirmed that the Vietnamese Dong has quietly entered a phase of revaluation. This means, per his sources, that certain transactions involving the Dong are already taking place at significantly higher values, although not yet reflected in public Forex markets or visible on retail currency exchange platforms. This quiet activation phase is being referred to as a stealth RV, where select institutions, likely Tier 1 banks and government-level contacts, are participating in early exchanges. This is a common narrative in RV theory, where such elite phases precede a public rollout. Frank elaborates that this stealth phase is a preparatory move to stabilize the system before unleashing the full public revaluation to the masses. One of the most intriguing points raised by Frank 26 is the strategic coordination between the dinar and the dong. Historically, these two currencies have been speculated to move in tandem due to similar economic and geopolitical reforms being undertaken by Iraq and Vietnam. Frank suggests that the live RV status of the Dong might serve as a precursor or even a soft launch to what's coming with the Iraqi Dinar. In fact, he asserts that the Dong's RV is a clear signal that the IQD is not far behind. He believes this synchronization strategy is part of a broader global financial realignment being orchestrated quietly by the IMF, BS, and select Asian financial consortiums. This brings a massive implication. If the Dong is revaluing now, we might be on the brink of witnessing the IQD's long-awaited moment as well. Let's talk about the potential mechanics of this stealth Dong RV. Based on Frank's commentary, it appears the revaluation is taking place through internal banking memos, special rate screens, and limited redemption centers. People with insider connections or who are part of specially invited exchange groups may already be cashing in at the new higher rate. He mentioned that these are not ordinary retail investors walking into a bank with a stack of Dong notes and walking out with fortunes. Instead, it's a slow, calculated, and institutionally managed phase designed to keep markets stable while liquidity flows are tested. This mirrors similar expectations for the IQD, which many believe will undergo a tiered release structure when the time comes. What's important here, and what Frank 26 emphasized in his latest podcast, is that the public might not see any sudden change on platforms like xe.com or Forex Factory in the early phases. This is because, according to him, the RV process is not just about flipping a switch on currency value, it's about international settlements, compliance with Basel IV banking reforms, and the readiness of central banks to handle the sudden influx of capital. As such, he warns his listeners not to panic if they don't see immediate confirmation through mainstream media or Forex rates. The true confirmation, Frank says, lies in the quiet uptick of liquidity, the changing behavior of financial institutions, and the soft launch of digital platforms that are already testing new exchange frameworks. Now, this brings us to the million-dollar question: how does this affect the Iraqi dinar? Frank 26 believes that the IQD is already poised and aligned for revaluation. He claims that key banking systems in Iraq have been updated, internal training programs for tellers and branch managers have been completed, and that U.S. Treasury observers have been embedded with the Central Bank of Iraq to monitor and guide the implementation. These are significant claims, and while they cannot be independently verified at this moment, they align with some real-world developments we've tracked, such as Iraq's recent banking reforms, currency auctions being controlled more tightly, and a shift towards digital payments in Baghdad. Furthermore, Frank points out that the Dong's stealth RV is serving as a test case. If successful, this model could be directly applied to the dinar, especially considering the dinar's deeper political sensitivities and its higher volume of speculative holders globally. He hints that the reason Vietnam was chosen to go first is because its economy is less volatile than Iraq's and more ready to handle a controlled revaluation. By learning from the Dong's rollout, financial planners can fine-tune the IQD's release process to avoid chaos. This, according to him, is why everything is taking so long, not because the RV isn't real, but because the stakes are so high. Now let's take a moment to discuss the potential implications if this RV claim proves to be true. For investors who have held Vietnamese Dong for years, this could represent a life-changing event. The current street rate of the Dong is around $23,000 to $25,000 per US dollar. A revaluation, even to something like 1,000.1 or even 100.1, would generate massive returns for early holders. But Frank cautions that not everyone will get the same rate. He says it depends on the timing, the channels used, and the documentation. Provided, in particular, holders who go through structured exchange appointments or who are part of whitelisted groups may get preferential rates as compared to walk-ins at Tier 2 banks or currency kiosks. This is why, Frank insists, being informed and prepared is key. He advises his listeners to have all necessary documents ready, including proof of purchase, source of funds, and clear record-keeping of all transactions involving Dong or Dinar holdings. He believes that governments and banks will scrutinize exchanges heavily to avoid fraud and money laundering. Those who are clean, compliant, and prepared will likely benefit the most, but not everyone agrees with Frank 26. Some financial analysts argue that without visible changes on the Forex market or an official statement from the Vietnamese Central Bank, any claim of a live RV is purely speculative. They warn against getting too excited based on unverified sources, as many RV predictions in the past have failed to materialize. This skepticism is healthy, and on the Dinar Chronicle, we always encourage our viewers to balance hope with critical thinking. That said, Frank's track record and the growing alignment of monetary policies between Iraq and Vietnam do warrant close observation. Another point worth exploring is the role of international alliances in this RV movement. Frank 26 hints that both the Dong and Dinar RVs are part of a broader shift away from petrodollar dependency and towards asset-backed currencies. Vietnam has strong trading relations with China, Russia, and members of the BRICS bloc, many of whom are pushing for a new multipolar world order. Similarly, Iraq has been engaging with China through the Belt and Road Initiative and is seeking alternatives to the traditional Western financial hegemony. Frank suggests that the RV of these currencies is a step toward de-dollarization and a new financial paradigm where local currencies are no longer suppressed by fiat dominance.